At 61, Johnny Depp is speaking in a way he never dared to before. After years of silence, exile, and public battles that shredded his reputation, he has begun revealing the truth behind the choices that once confused the world. The man who spent decades living under Hollywood's spotlight now admits the life people imagined for him was never the life he actually lived. What he shares today exposes wounds that fame never healed and confirms what millions quietly suspected about his disappearance. This is not a plea for sympathy. It is Johnny Depp reclaiming the pieces of himself that were lost long before the world noticed he was gone. His retreat from Hollywood was not an act of mystery, it was an act of survival. Now, as he slowly returns to the world, he does so not as a comeback story, but as a rebirth. The vanishing act, leaving Hollywood behind. In 2023, Johnny Depp made a decision that stunned everyone who followed his life. Without a farewell interview, without a red carpet goodbye, and without any public explanation, he packed his home in Los Angeles and quietly moved to Somerset, England. One day he was a Hollywood fixture, the next he was gone, leaving behind an industry that once depended on him. Fans searched for sightings. Reporters waited for statements. But for nearly a full year, there wasn't a single confirmed photograph of him at any event, airport, or studio. The man who had once been impossible to avoid had become invisible. But his disappearance was not a stunt, it was survival. Depp later explained in a rare interview that he wasn't trying to hide, he was trying to heal. "I'm not trying to be seen anymore," he said. "I'm trying to find peace." Those words traveled across social media within hours, revealing more about his state of mind than any press conference ever could. Somerset, a quiet life for a broken man. Life in Somerset was far from glamorous. Depp lived on a sprawling estate, yet he lived quietly, waking before dawn, taking slow walks, and reading outdoors, as if reconnecting with ordinary moments he hadn't felt in decades. Those close to him said he barely spoke during the first months after the move. Not out of anger, but exhaustion. For a man who had spent half his life being photographed, analyzed, criticized, and adored, the quiet countryside felt like the first place where he could breathe again. Yet even in this isolation, something unexpected began to grow. Depp was not vanishing. He was rebuilding. The first sign of that rebirth appeared on canvas, not on camera. After years of being forced into roles and headlines, he began to create art that spoke the truths he couldn't say out loud. The art of Johnny Depp, painting pain into life. While the world wondered whether Johnny Depp had retired, he was quietly pouring everything he couldn't say aloud onto canvas. Painting had always existed in the background of his life, but after 2022, it became something else entirely, a form of therapy, a way to process years of emotional turmoil. In Somerset, far from the noise of Hollywood, he began creating pieces that were raw, surreal, and hauntingly intimate. When his collection, A Bunch of Stuff, debuted in New York in 2024, it didn't just draw attention, it stunned people. Collectors expected familiar pop art portraits. Instead, they saw dreamlike, fractured images, full of empty spaces and muted tones. These were not paintings made for applause. They were paintings of a man putting his soul back together. Limited edition prints sold for up to $50,000 each, and sales quickly exceeded $5 million. Critics described the work as visual silence, while Depp himself said it allowed him to say what he couldn't articulate in interviews. Music as medicine. Returning to the stage. Music had been Johnny Depp's first escape long before fame, films, or tabloids. So when he drifted away from Hollywood, it was natural that he returned to the one thing that felt honest. Reuniting with Alice Cooper and Joe Perry, Depp returned to the stage with Hollywood Vampires. But this time he wasn't performing for adrenaline or reputation. He was performing to breathe again. Their European tour became an unexpected turning point. On stage, Depp no longer moved with the wild energy of his Jack Sparrow years. Instead, he played guitar with a calm focus, as though every note steadied him. Audiences noticed the shift. This was a man using music not to entertain but to heal. During performances of David Bowie's Heroes, his voice carried a softness fans had never heard before. It didn't sound like a tribute, it sounded like survival. Sobriety, stillness, and the new Johnny Depp behind the scenes, bandmates described Depp as quieter and more reflective. He no longer drank or chased the chaotic nightlife that had once defined him. Since late 2022, he chose sobriety, not through rehab or public declarations, but through a private promise to reclaim control over his body and mind. The change was visible. He had lost weight, his eyes looked clearer, and the tension that once shadowed his face had softened. Locals in Somerset often saw him walking before dawn, visiting the village library, or reading alone in his garden. These routines grounded him, allowing music to become something gentle again, not a performance, but a meditation. During a private sound check, Depp told a friend, "I don't have anything left to shout about. Stillness is louder." For the first time in years, his life finally matched those words. The trial that broke him, Amber Heard, and the war of words. No chapter of Johnny Depp's life left a deeper scar than his legal war with Amber Heard. What began in 2016 with allegations of abuse spiraled into one of the most public controversies in modern Hollywood. Depp said nothing at first, believing truth would prevail. Instead, silence became his enemy. Studios cut ties before evidence was examined. Disney removed him from Pirates of the Caribbean. Warner Brothers asked him to step away from Fantastic Beasts. Headlines labeled him guilty before a day in court. In 2018, The Sun called him a wife-beater, and Depp sued for libel in the UK, only to lose in 2020. The verdict shattered his reputation. The tabloids portrayed him as unstable, addicted, and washed up. Friends say he paced, drank, and punched walls in private frustration. Each rumor felt like another weight crushing him. Then, in 2020, a leaked recording changed everything and sparked a public shift in his favor. The turning point, the Virginia trial, and reclaiming his voice. In 2022, Johnny Depp filed a defamation lawsuit in Virginia, not for revenge, but to reclaim his voice. The trial lasted 6 weeks and unfolded like a documentary of a broken relationship. Depp described losing the tip of his finger after a bottle was thrown. He recounted years of emotional torment. Over 30 witnesses testified, with some describing Heard as aggressive. When the jury ruled in Depp's favor, the verdict felt monumental, but it didn't restore him. It merely closed a door that had been open too long. After the trial, Depp isolated himself for 2 months, barely speaking to anyone. In a private letter, he wrote, "I didn't fight to win. I fought to survive." The legal victory cleared his name, but the emotional wounds ran deeper. Still, something quiet began to shift inside him, an unexpected rebirth that would reshape his life. A new identity, living without the weight of fame. After the trial, Johnny Depp stopped carrying the battles with him. He stepped into a life shaped by stillness. Somerset became the refuge he never realized he needed. Locals described a man who moved slowly, kindly, and almost anonymously. For the first time in decades, Depp was simply living, not performing. He changed physically too, not because Hollywood demanded it, but because he was taking care of himself. A local doctor confirmed that his liver improved, his heart was stable, and he showed no signs of returning to old habits. When asked about his past, he answered with calm honesty, "The past is over. It's time to move on." The response stunned people, not because of what he said, but how he said it. No anger, no bitterness, just quiet clarity. Depp wasn't trying to rebuild his old life, he was creating a new one. Returning on his own terms. Film, art, and freedom. Johnny Depp's return to cinema was not explosive, it was intentional. In 2023, he appeared at the Cannes Film Festival for the premiere of Jeanne du Barry, his first major public appearance since the trial. When the film ended, the audience rose for a 7-minute standing ovation. It wasn't applause for a comeback. It was recognition of survival. Director Mai Wen said she chose him not because of controversy, but because he was the only actor who could bring King Louis XV to life. The performance marked more than a comeback. It signaled a new way of choosing roles. Depp no longer wanted franchise pressure or Hollywood expectations. He wanted characters that mirrored the truths he had lived. This shift continued with roles in Day Drinker and The Carnival at the End of Days, films that explore darkness, vulnerability, and redemption. Depp wasn't chasing status. He was choosing meaning, and for the first time, the uncertainty of his future felt like freedom. Outro, the man who walked away and came back. Different. Johnny Depp's journey has been defined by loss, reinvention, and quiet strength. At 61, he isn't trying to reclaim old glory. He is choosing a life that belongs to him, quiet, meaningful, and finally free. He has revealed truths the world suspected, not for sympathy, but to reclaim himself. And now, the question remains: should Johnny Depp ever return to Hollywood? Or should he continue the peaceful life he has built? His story reminds us that sometimes the greatest victories are not public triumphs, but private healing. Whether he returns or not, the world has already witnessed the most important transformation of all. A man who survived the storm and learned to live again.